Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. My mic, having mic issues here. Okay. So, I told you all I was going to come back, and I am. But I'm adding something a little extra to what I was going to talk about tonight, okay? And I found that article or the blog that I said I wrote. It's called The Second Time I Committed Suicide, okay? And, I'll read a little bit of it as we go through this. So I want to share with you my thoughts about self-hatred, suicide, and escape. Okay. So my boyfriend and I have been watching this show on TV called I Was Prey. And it's a show, there was another one like it. I forget the name of that one, but it's true stories of people who are attacked by animals. Okay, there are stories in there, folks attacked by bears, sharks. The last one I saw, the guy was stung by a, what do you call those things in the water? Jellyfish. It was some kind of poisonous jellyfish in Australia. And it was terrible. I mean, it was shutting down his organs and everything. It was really bad. But everybody in the show is telling their own story. So it's not as bad as it could have been, even though they're missing limbs and some of them and things like that. So, and I told you all that I also watch, I think it's the ID channel or Discovery Plus, all those various things that also have true stories about, like, there's one called Fear Thy Neighbor, where someone moves into a neighborhood and the neighbor ends up either hurting them very badly, there's a fight, or sometimes killing whole families, okay? So in watching that, I was discussing with someone a few days ago. I said, human animals don't seem to be any different than other animals, even though we claim to be. And not just different, but better, more evolved. If you ask anyone, well, what's the difference between a human and other types of animals? You'll hear things like, well, we have complex reasoning. We can do that. We can introspection, okay, the ability to, look inside. And while we do have instinct, we can also choose. So those seem to be some differences. And they may be. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what an animal thinks, or I have no idea. None. Okay. All I know is what I think about and can do. That's all I know. Okay. But what I think it is, I think there is one difference. Now, I don't think it's a difference that makes us more evolved or better or whatever, but I do think that there is one. And that difference is self-deception. I feel that human animals have perfected a way to be here, but not here. We've perfected a way to escape in place. Escape in place. And all those other things come from that. All whether we introspection, complex reasoning, all that, but the root of it all is self-deception. We can do that. Not only can I lie to you or deceive you, I can deceive myself. Now, how much fun is that? How much fun is that? So I think self-deception is the root of all good and evil. All we call good and evil. Self-deception is right at the root. So let me get to suicide here. In what I've written, it's not very long. I'll just go ahead and read it. It's not a whole bunch. Yeah. Okay. The second time I committed suicide. The first time was around September last year. On that day, I was standing in my kitchen when I finally decided to do it. I'd been contemplating it for months, but on that day, I just knew it was time. You know how you feel when you really make your mind up to do something? It's almost like you've already done it. That's the way I felt that day standing in my kitchen. My mind was made up. The next day, I did it. I committed suicide. And I immediately felt alive. They say that suicide is an indication that something was gravely wrong in a person's life. They say that a significant loss of a loved one, loss of a job, loss of social status, those kinds of things make one susceptible to wanting to take one's own life. For me, that was not the case. Nothing was wrong. I hadn't lost anything. In fact, I was profiting in various aspects of my life, especially my work life. For me, the cause of my first suicide was the fact that I was in a place too small for me. I was working in a job that I had outgrown. I was doing work that felt constricting and claustrophobic. I was maturing, and the cocoon was too tight. I committed suicide the day I told my boss I'm resigning. In that moment, my work life was dead. I had no job, I had no plan, and there was nothing but uncertainty ahead of me. I imagine that's what physical death is, just openness and potential that I am wholly unaware of. Something that I discovered years ago is that death does not kill me. Therefore, I'm prepared to do it again. I'm prepared to voluntarily end my life once again with no plan and nothing but uncertainty and potential before me. The culmination of what we call life is not only physical. There are various aspects of life, and living a long life is about more than how old you are when you physically die. A long life is a lived life. A long life is a life full of moments. Moments of elevation, contrast, inspiration, frustration, freedom, and relaxation. A long life can be lived in 1 year or 99 years. It's not the number that matters. It's the significance of the moments. Today, I'm choosing to live a long life. I'm choosing to create moments and use my freedom to harness fear and live. So I wrote this because there was a lot of uncertainty ahead of me, and I was scared. I was very afraid. And it wasn't the same kind of fear, that I experienced, when I had my enlightening experience, but it was fear. Okay, I didn't know what was ahead of me. I had no idea. But in this case, unlike the last case, unlike my enlightening experience, I was choosing to do this. I was saying, I'm ending it. I'm done. I'm making this decision. It's either this or that, and I'm choosing that. Okay, I made that decision, which is why I titled it this way. I'm choosing uncertainty. There was no clear thing. It's not like, okay, Cheryl, do you want the chicken or the fish? No. It's either you're choosing what you know, or you're choosing uncertainty. And that's what I did. I have no idea what was going to happen. None. No idea at all. And that's what I chose. Which was, again, very, very scary for me. Now, when we think, so at least in our culture, and I suspect in many others, suicide is a very negative thing. Okay, and it's associated with things like pain. You've been going through a lot of pain, or you have a lot of guilt, or you want to punish yourself, or you just don't want to be here. I've heard people say that, people who are close to me. I just don't want to be here anymore. Like I just don't want to be here. Which again is where self-deception comes in. What do you mean don't want to be here? Where are you? No, really, like where are you? Like seriously, don't tell me what you read in a book. Don't tell me what your teacher said, what your mother told you, what NASA's website says. Tell me now, using all of the faculties that you have, put out of your head anything that you were told, and tell me where here is. When you mean you don't want to be, when you say you don't want to be here. Okay? Self-deception. So, and the thing is that it's not really that you want to die. Okay? What's most likely wanted is you want to stop hurting. You want to stop the pain or the guilt or whatever you feel is getting in the way of you just being you. One thing I said was, before I wrote my book, is why is living so hard? You would think, no, I did not have, as far as I know, I did not have to work when I was being formed in my mom's belly. Okay, I wasn't in there, working up a sweat and tired. You know what I mean? I mean, intelligence was just doing it. Okay, it was just happening. And I think everything is still just happening. It's all just happening the way whatever was happening when you were in your mother's belly. That hasn't stopped. Okay, it's still going on. All right, you're still being formed. You're still growing up. You know what I mean? But self-deception helps us to make it our own. I guess you can say. It's like what do they call it? It's like, when you put salt in your meal, it just makes it taste different. It brings out the flavor, so, and the thing is, so this is actually one thing that I talk about in my leadership courses, okay, is that if I know that I'm deceiving myself, okay, that's a good thing. When you really look at it, it's like, Cheryl, you are totally, deceiving yourself right here. Whatever here is, I just don't want to be here. I made here. I made it. Okay. Like it's mine. I made a place that I cannot stand. All right. It's so good. It's so convincing. It evokes so many thoughts and feelings, and I want to get out. I just want to get out. Knowing that I've done that means I can also undo it if I want to. Okay. It means I can undo it if I want to. If I want to stop the hurting, there's actually something I can do. to stop the hurting. If I have contributed to creating the conditions that cause the hurt, okay, then I have some accountability, and where there's accountability, you have some control. You can change it. If I don't like the story, I can change it. If I'm good enough to make it that bad, all right, I'm good enough to change it into something else. And this sounds like, at least to me in the beginning, just it just sounded ridiculous, But I think that that's because, growing up, I was very much into not having any accountability at all. Not having any, like nothing. Like there was nothing that I could do about anything, because it was either God or it was the devil. Okay, God did it or the devil did it. I'm just here on the sidelines looking at both of them live my life and make choices for me, So I wasn't used to actually feeling like I could do anything, even though the whole time, like I was, totally doing it, But I wasn't used to feeling like I could do anything, or that I had any power at all to even make a decision, which was so contradictory to everything, because if I made a bad decision, then God had nothing to do with it. Okay, that was me being. It was a whole. I mean, that story there is just. It was nuts. Okay, and I had to jump through so many hoops, to really believe what I'd made. Jump through hoops and just ignore a whole bunch of stuff, for the self-deception to stick. The way you have to, it's almost like if you're in your house, right? You're in your house, but you are pretending you're in a a desert. Okay. You're pretending that it's hot and you're sweating. You can't, you're looking for water. You got a whole couch next to you, and a Berber carpet, okay, underneath you. But you're pretending that it's sand. There's a lot. The self-deception is there. There's a lot of ignoring what's around you. That's also there. Okay. A lot of ignorance is happening simultaneously. I mean, it has to, it has to, and we give ourselves permission to do that, to ignore the obvious. So the self-deception can come through. We do that all the time. We've made a habit of it. I said in another thing that, the biggest habit I have is Cheryl. Cheryl's a habit. Okay? And I used to, growing up, I read a lot of books. I told y'all I'm a reader. Okay? I don't just read. I'm a reader like that. If that was a profession, that would be mine. I'm a reader. Okay? I love reading. And back then when I was growing up, I loved reading romance novels. Okay, I thought I was actually going to be a romance novelist. That was my goal, to just write romance novels. I love those books. And I would read them all the time. I would read I remember staying up one night. I got home from school at what time did we get home? It was 3:30 or something, okay? I had dinner, I went in my room, and I read a book. I had just gotten a new book from the library. I went in my room, and I read that book until 6:30 the next morning. And I had to go to school. I'm a reader, I told you, okay? And even into my adult, up until right before I wrote Firing God. That's what I did every time you saw me. If I wasn't working or driving, I was reading a book, because it allowed me to not be here. I didn't want to be here either. I didn't want to be here. You don't just have to slit your throat to commit suicide. Okay? Many of us don't want to be here. Whatever the here is that we've made. We don't want to be here. Okay? And my way to not be here was to read. I wanted to get lost in somebody else's story because mine was trash. Okay? Mine was terrible. I didn't like that story. I didn't like it. So that's how I would escape. That's how I would lose myself in other people's stories. And what I discovered was everything I did, even if I wasn't reading a book, everything I did, like even talking in this microphone on YouTube, it was like a form of escape. Whatever took my attention away from me, okay, I was willing to do it. And I know some people who they just can't be quiet. Some folks can't be quiet with themselves. One of my sisters, she never turns her TV off. She sleeps with the TV on. And because she said she just needs to, there has to be some noise. She needs to hear some noise. There has to be some, the quietness just wouldn't, no. Because when you're quiet, all you have is you. And what you're creating, your thoughts, what you're interpreting and your filter and all that. One of the things that we don't do enough of, is ask questions. And I said all I said was ask questions. And you're not asking questions to find answers. No, just ask a question. Have you ever thought of that? Just like a simple question, something that you do every day. Like, what time is it? Ask the question and just leave it there. Leave it alone. Just let it be there. And just do whatever. When you say, I don't want to be here, ask the question. What do I mean by here? What is here? And just don't look for an answer. Just leave it alone. We need to ask questions and just leave them alone. Let a question be what the hell it is. Okay? Questions don't ask for answers. That's not what they're doing. Let the question just be what it is. And just leave it. And ask questions that just seem, you wouldn't even think to ask, because you already know. That's a tough one. It's tough to even see those questions, right? It's really tough. It's very tough to even see those questions, But that's a good practice. And it's easy to do. It's very easy to just ask a question and leave it. Well, in the beginning it may not, because we have a thing that we do with leaders where if they have an issue that they're dealing with at work, we have other people, their peers, get around the table and ask them questions about that situation, but they cannot answer. Okay? And we even do like what we call respectful challenges, where we'll say something like, is it possible that you are the cause of this issue? They can't say anything. Okay? And somebody, all they're doing is writing down the questions they hear. That's it. They cannot answer. And it's like they got to answer in their pants because they're so desperate. Okay, to answer and give an explanation and say, oh, you don't understand, let me finish, give you. No, they can't do none of that. They have to sit there and just listen to the questions. And that's it. Okay? They cannot answer. And it's very interesting when you do that. It's very interesting when you do that. Very interesting. And I really don't think we do that enough in our professional lives or our personal lives, you know. Self-hatred. Okay, so we talked about self-deception. Self-hatred. What is that? How does a person hate oneself? Like, how do you do that? You know, can you get an image in your head about how would you recognize, just by looking at them, a person engaged in self-hatred? If you can't picture that, what about self-love? What would you recognize in a person who is engaged in self-love? It's a question. It's just hanging out there. Have you ever engaged in self-hatred? What does that look like? There were two things that I carried with me right after I wrote the book, and I just began looking at things. One was, there's nothing to do. In every moment, there's nothing to do. And the other one was what I wrote in the blog post I read, that death does not kill me. Those two things, and I really had to go back to that, you know, because it makes a difference. It really makes a difference in your perspective. Not just hearing those words or repeating those words, or, you know, but actually seeing it. It makes a difference the way if you had a rope on the ground in front of you, okay, and someone told you it was a snake, but you're looking at it and you see, no, it's not. Like it's not moving. It ain't got no eyes ahead. No, it isn't. You're not gonna do it. You're not gonna, you know, do anything. You're not gonna do anything, okay. But if you look at it and you see, you know, that it's a snake, you're probably going to do something. Okay? You're probably going to do something. So it's when you see that there's nothing to do. That's when you're going to do something. When you see that death doesn't kill you, that's when you'll do something. You know? There's a lot to see here, because there's a lot that we ignore, you know? And the thing about it is, looking sounds easy, because it is. unless I'm just so engaged in holding on to the self-deception, I've invested so much in it. I've invested a lot in believing what I've made up. A lot. Invested a lot. Which is so weird, y'all. When I felt there was such a sense of loss. Such a sense of loss of something I never had. I lost eternal life when I left Christianity. I lost that. I was so depressed. Don't you have to have something to lose it? I lost favor. Everything I lost, I never had. Okay? But the feeling of loss, the depression and sadness and what have I done, all of that was so real. But it was based on a total lie. What I see as a lie, okay? It was based on a lie that I told myself. It's like, money. If you lose your $20 bill or something like that, that thing ain't worth nothing unless you money is worth like money. If you're cold, then you burn it. Now it's got some use, okay, because it's making you warm. You know what I mean? But apart from that, all that other stuff is just what we put into it. The trust that we put into it, the meaning that we give it. Okay. That's what I was depressed about. The meaning that I gave the idea of eternity. This other eternity that was in the sky. I don't know if it was in the sky or somewhere in outer space. I don't know where the hell it was. I really don't. Okay. I just knew it wasn't here. Okay. Wherever here is, it wasn't here. Self-hatred, suicide, and escape. Okay, that's all I have for you today. This is Cheryl Abram with Life Without a Witness. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you back here next time. Have a good night, y'all.